Good morning and welcome to America's Home Cooking. I'm going to talk about baking powder. Okay, and I've already talked about what the aluminum does. Now you have to remember baking powder is very new to this country and the world, all right? Now I'm going to read this to give you just an idea, okay? Double-acting baking powder became a reliable, readily available commodity in the late 19th century, providing freedom from the independence of slow-growing yeast to leaven breads. Remember, sourdough takes longer to rise. In the 1923 edition of the Boston Cooking School Cookbook, it contained 4 recipes for baking powder loaves, and by the 1930s, quick breads, particularly those filled with fruits and nuts, had increased in variety and popularity because of baking powder. Now, plain muffin leavened with baking soda were being made in the 19th century, but the invention of the baking powder spurred the trend toward more and more elaborate muffins until 1980s. Muffin mania took hold. Well, you can see all the different kinds of muffins I make. Muffins began to get larger and larger, and the flavor choices were not just bran, blueberry, and corn. You also now have pineapple, papaya, zucchini, even chocolate chip. You've seen me do trail mixes. You've seen me do a whole bunch of things with these muffins. And this is the whole thing of the history of this. But remember, there was no Alzheimer's until after they started making the baking powder and they put aluminum in them. Now, aluminum is the retarder to prevent the baking soda from exploding. Now, you're probably saying, wait a minute, I don't always put baking soda. To make baking powder, you need cream of tartar, cornstarch, and baking soda. That is what a natural baking powder is made of. So when you use baking powder that you make with that ratio, any recipe that has baking powder and baking soda, you have to minus that baking soda because it'll explode and everything will collapse because there's not enough batter to hold it all. And if you notice, if you take baking powder and put it in cold water and put baking soda in cold water, baking soda is going to fizz up. But the baking powder you buy in the store that has the aluminum in it will not until heat hits it, and then heat will expand. This is where, when I told you when I was growing up and we entered these cooking contests, the whiter the cake or the dessert and the lighter it was and the flavor, you got first prize. They weren't concerned about nutrition as much as to appeal to the eye. The whiter the cake means it's pure. This goes back to, Mother Mary, who was pure and everything else. So this is where we get this concept from. But the thing is that as they did this, we were losing nutritional value in our foods. Now, when you make your baking powder, it's not difficult. I've already shown you, but if you need me to show you again, I will. I'll be having to make more all the time. So if you can. Now, I went into the aisle, the health food aisle, after I went down the regular aisle. I go in all the aisles. I read everything baking powder. Everything had aluminum in them. And I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden, the health food aisle, when I looked at their baking powder and read it, they said no aluminum in it. Now, Alzheimer's and all of these problems did not come into existence until recently, but they found out the aluminum gets a hold of the neurons in the brain and they short circuit it in some way and destroy it up there. And this is why people with Alzheimer's are losing their minds, their memories and everything because of the aluminum in it. Now, you can come off aluminum. You have to come off deodorants and other things that have aluminum in it as well. Makeup has aluminum in it. If you're putting it on your skin, and as soon as you start to sweat, you know what it's going to do. It's going to get into the body. If you use deodorants, it's going to get in because you're going to sweat, the pores are going to open, and the aluminum is going to get in there. And in time, it affects older people, and they start losing their minds and get forgetful and everything else. I've been moving away from aluminum in all directions. Now you say, but I can't, I smell. Women used to use powders, and so did men. There wasn't aluminum in them. So, believe you me, you don't need what they're giving you now. If you choose to, it's your choice. But I just bring this information to you. This is the history of baking powder, and you can see the results that we have today. You add these chemicals into our food, and women don't look it up and stay diligent in the kitchen of what they're putting into their family. Each generation is getting more unhealthy than the generation before. If you want to break down, most people, this is my philosophy, the building blocks and the foundation of this country rest on the women's shoulders. Because if we don't cook right and we are feeding our families these instant foods with chemicals and stuff in them, you're deteriorating their health, and they're not as healthy as you are, and each generation gets worse. The men will not be able to defend this country. They're not as strong as they used to be. They're not as healthy as they used to be. You think we have soldiers that are on medication. World War II, if you were sick or you had medication, you did not go into the armed forces. Now they have to accept them. It's like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, as they say. So the health of a country, the strength of a country, rests on our shoulders. And if we do not take this seriously, then we're doomed. That's how it is. It's just a matter of time. How many generations? I can't tell you. But that's where it rests. And I look at it that way. So I know how important my job is to make sure that I give this country healthy children. I kept my husband as healthy as I could until I found out what they did. Then I got mad. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, to have the children as healthy as they can. They need to be, especially those young men. And the young girls that we have, they have to be healthy because the next generation is going to be coming out of them. And if they aren't that healthy, then their children aren't going to be as healthy. So it's very important. It rests on your shoulders, ladies. Nobody else's. You take care. Bye-bye.